One of the things that can interfere with learning is the distance between teachers and students. We're going to spend a lot of time on this. I was a student for a long time before I was a teacher. The occupation of being a teacher is strange because you, as a student for so long, have experienced other people's teaching before you become a teacher. It's different than other jobs. A surgeon doesn't have surgery done on them for so many years before they start. There's something interesting about being a student. But the differences between teachers and students cause a lot of problems. And especially in this drone education system, where teachers, instead of being educators to helping with enlightenment, have oftentimes become disciplinarians. They become enforcers of a kind. And that doesn't work well with learning. Students don't respond to it as well, and it creates a lot of havoc. So we're going to talk about that at length. The one thing that we want to talk about today, though, is hierarchy. In the time before the Industrial Revolution, all of human history was a time of scarcity. There wasn't enough for everybody to have. Human beings formed different ways of getting things done, and one of the most effective and one of the most destructive is to form hierarchies. Now, when these are formed from a meritocracy, when these are built on people's ability, their knowledge, oftentimes they can work. We form our own hierarchies based on our preferences, the things that we enjoy and things that we would rather do without. But socially constructed hierarchies of superior and inferior people, they don't work because they're a fantasy. They're not real. Oftentimes the people who see themselves or position themselves higher in a hierarchy are older, or they have more wealth, or they have more privilege, and somehow have been able to get other people to believe it. And that's the only way that a hierarchy works, when you can get people to believe that it's real. It's not. And it's destructive, but it's a powerful way of getting things done. Because the people at the bottom, the majority at the bottom, are subsumed, are consumed by the hierarchy, and they give up what they want, and they sacrifice so the people at the top can have theirs. This is a societal problem. It looks strange to talk about this in the classroom, but it directly affects everything that we do here. Because, as many of you have realized, there's a touch word that's used to show how this hierarchy is enforced. And that word is a buzzword. It needs to be a red flag when you hear this word in education, and it is respect. Now, when you and I talk about respect, what we mean is treating each other the way that we would want to be treated, with some equality, some form of the golden rule. In a hierarchy, that's not what they mean at all. In a hierarchy, when someone says that they want to be treated with respect, or accuses someone of being disrespectful to them, what they mean is, I need to be treated like a superior. I need to be treated with deference. I need to be treated as higher than you. Oftentimes, the very thing that can enrage somebody in a hierarchy is that someone else treated them like an equal when they were supposed to treat them like a superior. Now, this is obviously destructive and ugly, but let's just talk about it so that we can understand it. Let's get into their heads and see what's going on. Imagine a person in a hierarchy. They have paid their dues. They have spent their time, they allowed themselves to be broken in like an animal by a teacher or a coach or a parent, a priest, some other kind of youth leader. They allowed that to occur. They paid with their time. They obeyed. They allowed people higher up in a hierarchy to take credit for their ideas. They played by the rules. And now that they're older and they're in some kind of position of authority, they feel that they are due. So oftentimes, most of you have either had this happen or you have watched it happen in class, where somebody asked a question and was told that they were being disrespectful, or asked a question, made a comment in class, and were crushed or smashed by a teacher who felt threatened by that. And no matter what the teacher or that authority figure says that they're doing, most of the time it's to protect the hierarchy. It's that someone was rising up too high. They were getting too informal. They weren't respecting the distances that were supposed to be there. Well, I don't know how many distances are actually supposed to be there for good learning, but there's not as many as people think. So you need to be able to get around this, because oftentimes that is the way that you have been taught in the past. A good sign is that in college and university, things get a little bit better. It's not that hierarchy is gone. It's that oftentimes maybe the teachers are more prepared, more confident. They're able to withstand more questioning, more differences of ideas in class. For whatever reason, people are more accustomed to confrontational ideas. This is going to be easier, but it's still going to be there. So we need to talk about how to get around it. First off, you need to have that strong identity that we talked about. Second, you need to be able to make yourself clear. You need to be able to use evidence. If you're confused by something that happened in text, use that text. Make sure that you spot the specific instance and give that reference in class. Be able to give evidence for everything that you say. The most fundamental thing is don't play the game. Nobody respects a doormat. When you feel some pressure to compromise, to limit yourself in any way in deference to somebody else, realize that there won't be any more respect if you give in to that. It doesn't work that way. Nobody does. They may be more comfortable with you. They may give you less grief, but there's no respect. It is good to question. You pay tuition, you come to class, you are prepared, you have every right to ask questions. You have every right to get the information that you need. So you need to make sure that you do that. You need to push that. And when you feel some kind of pushback from a teacher or instructor who is not prepared, who is not confident, who is not able to withstand another human being responding to them and wants you to act like a drone and wants you to be humble and submissive and meek when they're around, you can either ignore them, you can initiate some confrontation with them, or you can just get around them. I've done all three, and the most important thing for you in your individual circumstance, and what we'll talk about in class, some strategies to do, is to not let them get in your way. This is when people are their most exciting, when they're dynamic, when their mind and their body, their passion, their reason, their likes and their dislikes are all operating, and the engine of their identity is roaring. That's when we're most attractive to each other. That's when we're most effective. It's the best way to be. It's the best way to learn. The hierarchical structures, most of them fantasies that have been in the education system that you've been a part of, have been to put that kind of thing down, to make everything safe and droll. You will have to buck that system in order to learn better, and it's worth it to do.